Hello, good evening. I'm calling this meeting to order at 7:00 p.m. We have all of us present here today. Steve Brown, Jack Nicolai, Nick Poloni, myself, Dana Powers, and Ted Gergen. Good gracious. Nobody's absent, administration present. We have everyone. We have Marquez, Connie, Judy, Patty, and Ryan. Visitors present, just make sure you sign in by the front door. Okay. And stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval on the agenda.
A motion to approve the agenda as presented.
No.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries. President's report. Jack and I had a great time welcoming the new students with all of our administration friends. I'm sorry?
Teachers?
What did I say?
Students?
Yes, that is correct. Welcomed all of the new teachers. Administration was present. It was a great day. It was really hot outside, but we had pizza and cookies, and it was really nice. It was probably one of the better welcome new teacher times that I've done. I really enjoyed it.
I agree.
It was really nice.
And there's a picnic coming up on Thursday.
That is correct. There is a picnic coming up on Thursday.
Pending
Hopefully,
weather.
God
Pending
will.
weather.
Rain. Well, got to.
It all came
Weather
today,
willing,
so I think
yeah.
you're okay for Thursday. Yep.
Okay, here's hoping. And then I'm sure somebody will talk about it, but then we welcomed all staff back today, and that was great too. Good to see all up there. Smiley faces. I was alone doing that today, so thank you. Oh, just kidding.
Wait.
I think that's really all I wanted to talk about. Spotlight.
So speaking of new teachers, we tried something a little bit new. We had a really nice new teacher orientation, 4 days of working with our new staff. A lot of thanks to go out to our administrative team was very much involved in kind of carrying it out. Some of our mentors, our experienced teachers here in the district stepped up. But one of the things that we did that was new, that was kind of fun, is we did a bus tour around the district so our new teachers could get a kind of a feel for or understanding about what the boundaries of our district looked like and what was all kind of in our district. And then we followed that up by a nice picnic in Settlers Park, and that was also very nice. But I think it was overall a very successful new teacher orientation, and all the thanks. Lori Teese did an outstanding job giving kind of the tour. She did a lot of research. Michelle Walter came in with the historical perspective. So it was very nice. So that's what I have for our new teacher spotlight.
Marquez was not driving the bus.
It was
He
wonderful.
was just
Yeah.
posing there. It was in park. Yes, he was practicing for when he mows the lawn once we get our riding lawnmower. We're just never going to be about that.
Yeah, yep.
Any correspondence?
I have no correspondence, but I will say it's great to be back in the LGI.
Yeah, feels kind of weird being here. That's great. Great.
All right. Let's take a look at the treasurer's report dated July 2021. So if we take a look, we have a general fund cash account with a balance of $118,758.82. Credit cards with a balance of $8,491.10. The EBC Flex and HRA cash account with a balance of $7,395.27. Capital Improvement Fund, and maybe, I don't know, Marquez is going to talk about this later, that's Fund 46. This has a balance of $2,213,693.84, and that included a transfer of about $1.8 million into Fund 46 this month. Petty cash with a balance of $400, and LGIP with a balance of $127,027.11. And that gives us a grant asset total for July of 2021 of $2,475,766.14.
So, yes, Ted, you did point out the $1.8 million transfer. The remaining $39.94 was the interest earned in July. And then you could see the corresponding credit up on the first row, includes that 2.8 million, includes that 1.8 million transfer. So that was, we discussed at the last board meeting, kind of where we finished with a remaining balance, and we transferred it, and that transfer is a shared cost, and so we do get aid on that transfer.
Right.
So, whereas if we had just left in Fund 10, we would be leaving, or our state aid would have taken a hit in this upcoming school year.
Awesome.
Some of that will go to actually pay for projects that are already underway. So
Right, that were delayed because of last year's.
And actually on the checks by vendor, you'll see a couple Fund 46 expenses
Absolutely.
already coming out. So.
All right, cool. Can I move to approve the treasurer's report dated July 2021 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
Thank you. And we'll take a look at the payment of accounts payable bills from June 17th, 2021 through July 22nd, 2021. And this includes checks numbered 70417 through 70464, and also 202-1000022 through 202-1000074, for a total of $659,367.01. Little
So moved.
less checks this month.
Yes.
Yeah, a little slower than
Summer,
business.
we
Yeah,
don't have
right.
much going on
Exactly.
purchasing wise in the summer. So most of them are actually payroll accruals. So
Can I move to,
I thought you already did.
oh,
Go ahead.
approve the payment of accounts payable bills dated 6/17/21 through 7/22/21.
So moved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
Thank you.
You betcha.
the minutes of our regular school board meeting, July 27th, 2021, as printed and amended.
I motion to approve the minutes of the regular school board meeting dated 7/27/2021 as printed and or amended.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries. Okay. Public comments. Sorry to be looking at you, but you're the only unknown face here. Did
But
you?
welcome.
Yeah. Did you have a comment, or are you just listening, or?
Yeah, I guess I have some comments.
Okay.
Is this like an interactive at all, or is it just comments?
So typically, public comments is just you say what you want to say and we carry on. But I guess it depends on what you're going to say. Is that bad? Yeah, go ahead. If you want to make a comment about masks or whatever else, this would now be the time to do it.
Yes, definitely about COVID. And
Actually,
masks.
I'm sorry. I do need you to state your name and your address for the record.
Okay, Megan Otto, 21st.
Okay, so we spoke. Got
Okay,
it.
yes.
Okay.
Salem, Wisconsin, 53168.
Okay.
Okay, so I definitely oppose masking children. I think that all of that should be left up to parents. I think that, we're going on year 2 of this, and I don't think this is ever going to end until we stand up and we stop being so afraid. I think that everybody has vaccines if they want them. Teachers can take those precautions if they want them. We know the statistics on COVID for children. They have like a 0.003% death rate. And, we've seen what happened last year. It's not spreading in schools very much. And like I said, this year now, teachers can take the vaccines if they want them. And so I am concerned that the Delta variant might cause new guidelines to be put in place, and I would just really strongly encourage all of you to not be swept up in all of that, and let parents make the decisions that they feel best, because I think that's always how it should be, and we should do everything community-based and not, there's a lot of other districts doing their own stuff, but I think everything needs to be done community-based. So I think parents should be making that call.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm assuming we'll go into that later, right?
Actually, do not have.
It's not even on here. Okay, perfect. I couldn't remember.
We approved our back-to-school plan at our last board
So it's
meeting.
all in there. Perfect.
Do we have any virtual comments?
Yeah, did we have any come in? Oh, wow. Okay. Great.
So the first action item on the agenda is a new hire for an elementary teacher, Alexandra Michaels. She has a bachelor's degree in education from UW-La Crosse in December of 2018. She was a third grade teacher at Raymond Elementary School from September 2020 to June of 2021, and a substitute teacher from 2019 to 2020. Our recommendation would be to approve a 1.0 FTE contract for Alexandra for the 21-22 school year of not less than $44,400.
I move to approve a 1.0 FTE contract for Alexandra Michaels for the 21-22 school year of not less than $44,400.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So we have Cora Jensen. All of these were with us today, actually, starting out. So she has a bachelor's degree in special education and general education from UW-Eau Claire in December of 2020. She did her student teaching at Augusta Area School District in 4th grade. And she did student teaching in the school district of Bloomer, middle school special education in August of 2020. The recommendation would be to approve a 1.0 FTE contract for Cora Jensen for the 2021-2022 school year of not less than $44,400.
I move to approve a 1.0 FTE contract for Cora Jensen for the 2021-2022 school year of not less than $44,400.
All those in favor?
I just have one question. Does she also have her special ed certification?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
very good, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries.
Were you going to ask a question?
Yes, with your more recent hires, are they more appealing to you when they have multiple certifications? Like, has that changed as of recent, or you guys?
No, I think it's beneficial
It helps.
to have multiple.
So is it when you're kind of down to two, is it more based on, well, if you're down to two, do you base it more on how many?
It's something we take into consideration for sure. There are other qualities that we're looking for as well. But it's definitely a plus.
Do we have anyone on emergency licensing right now?
We will for a long-term sub that we're going to be talking about tonight,
Okay.
but that's it. So, yep. Okay. So we have a limited term specials teacher. This will be a teacher on a provisional license. This is filling in for, remember, Hannah Horrocks requested a 1-year leave of absence. Again, then a position maybe not as appealing to somebody who's looking for a permanent position, hence the reason to get somebody who is going to have to get a provisional license. But Adam Kimpler has been with us as a long-term sub for many years now. He has a bachelor's degree in advertising from the University of Illinois. He's been a substitute teacher at Salem for the past 7 years. And he was a long-term PE substitute for Salem in the fall of 2020. So he knows our district well, our staff knows him well. Actually,
popular.
when we made the hire today, the staff was pretty,
Yeah, I was like,
definitely very supportive.
he's very important.
So the recommendation would be to approve a 1.0 FTE contract as a limited term, so it's a little different than the other contracts for Adam Kimpler for a 2021-22 school year of not less than $43,500.
Explain generally a limited term contract versus a regular, if you could, please.
So a regular contract is subject to renewal, so when that January, February, March window comes around, they start talking about them rolling over. We get into April and a contract automatically rolls over unless the district takes action to stop that contract. On a limited term, the contract is for a set amount of time. There is no rollover clause in that contract. And we would do that in exactly the case we have here, where, for example, we have a teacher who's out for a year and has a right to return to that position when the year is over. So we always believe in truth in advertising, and we don't want to create a situation where we hire someone knowing that we would be laying them off the next year.
Okay, I move to approve a 1.0 FTE limited term contract for Adam Kempler for the 2021-2022 school year of not less than $43,500.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
Did we skip over
Yeah, we
Amanda?
skipped. Amanda.
So we have a new hire as a middle school teacher, Amanda Vogelzang. She's a master's in elementary education from Alverno College, a BA in classical humanities from UW-Madison, a 7th grade science and social studies teacher experience in Lake Danoon Middle School in Muskego, and an 8th grade science and social studies teacher in Silver Lake Intermediate School in Oconomowoc from August 2019 to June. The recommendation would be to approve a 1.0 FTE contract for Amanda for the 2021-2022 school year of not less than $51,300.
She's social studies in 8th grade, is that it?
She is the language arts teacher in 8th grade.
Language of 8th grade, okay.
I motion to approve a 1.0 FTE contract for Amanda Vogelzang for the 2021-2022 school year of not less than $51,300.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
We have a new hire for a school nurse. That's Brianna Canuti. She's actually a parent in our district. She has a master's in nursing from UW-Milwaukee, a BA in biology from UW-Parkside. Her most recent position, which hopefully will come in very handy for us, was with the Kenosha County Division of Health as a public health nurse and nurse supervisor. And she is also has been a Parents as Teachers nurse home visitor. She worked with United Hospital Systems as a staff nurse and with Kenosha State's long-term care facility as a staff nurse. The recommendation would be to approve a 1.0 FTE contract for Brianna for the 2021-2022 school year of not less than $75,000.
And then she has a helper, I don't know what the term is. She has somebody with her then?
Yes, we
How will
are.
that?
So we do have what you would consider kind of like a nurse's assistant or a health office assistant that will be working 5 days a week or 5 hours a day, 5 days a week to help provide support in the nurse's office.
Good. Very cool.
But that would be an hourly position, so you wouldn't be approving a contract for that.
I move to approve a 1.0 FTE contract for Brianna Canuti for the 21-22 school year of not less than $75,000.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is the 2020-2021 Pupil Transportation Report. This is an annual report that we're required to submit and includes our Salem students that are transported and if the cases, as the case may be, any non-public school student transportation is required by law. It does not include our specialized transportation, which would be, for example, for our special education students. So you can kind of see the report divides students into what's called the 2 to 5 miles. That is the statute that requires students to be transported from those distances. So 2 miles and over is required by law. And then those students who would fall within a hazardous area also required to be transported by law. In most cases for us, that would be students who are crossing a highway or on a particularly busy road that they would need to traverse. And so you can see a good number of our students would fall into that hazardous travel for a total of 478 students being transported, and yeah, that's our report. So the recommendation would be to approve the 2020-2021 Pupil Transportation Report as presented. Marquez, did you want to add anything to that? Or?
Yeah, I just kind of going off what Connie said, just based on where the school is situated, we have two highways kind of at our corners, so virtually everybody has to cross a highway. And so that's kind of why a lot of people fall into that first category, even though it's less than 2 miles, which is beneath the required distance for transportation. We still get to count them as a hazardous
Does
crossing.
this harm us in any way, or it's just a report that has to be?
We do get aid.
Yes, we do get aid. It's not very much. I mean, it's a fraction of what we actually spend on transportation, but I want to say we got maybe about $12,000 reimbursed last year.
Better than a
But I
shark
mean, we
stick.
spent tens of thousands of dollars on buses, so it's not anywhere near full reimbursement.
It is a little bit down this year. Remember, a lot of parents did choose to transport their kids last year, so our numbers are definitely down from where they were in the past.
What's the difference between the public count and the non-public count?
Oh, like open enrollment? That's what I
But we
thought.
don't transport open enrollment kids.
Oh.
So there is a requirement by law that if there's not a parochial school within your district, the district does have to transport to the nearest parochial school. So I'm assuming that that is to Kenosha.
I move to approve the 2020-2021 pupil transportation report as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries. Yikes.
The next item on the agenda is a little rainy out there. The 2020-2021 school calendar report. This is also an annual report that we're required to submit to DPI. Kind of unique this year in that we just weren't real sure how we were going to come out in terms of days. And so we did go through the process of approving a waiver of instructional hours. And as you can see, we would not have needed to. We did actually exceed the required hours, which is good. Some of that was due to our virtual instruction, for example, on those Wayfaring Wednesdays and that type of thing. So this is, again, an annual report. The recommendation would be to approve the 2020-2021 school calendar year as presented.
A motion to approve the 2020-2021 school calendar report as presented.
So moved. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and I'm gonna mark him as abstaining. Motion carries.
Connie, when that gets submitted, does it get submitted without the waiver attached to it then, since we didn't need it?
So you actually have to, and that's why we kind of went through the process.
Right.
You actually have to submit the waiver ahead of time. So
is
we
why we
got
did that.
permission, we went through the process, we got permission. And then at the point where if we had come under, then we would have included the waiver at that time along with. But because we've met the requirement. And one of the things that is unique about a school district like ours is that, as you can see, the hours for kindergarten significantly lower. Grades 1 through 6 also lower, but the requirement, because the requirement is so much lower, we're tied to what our highest grade levels are. So because we have 7th and 8th graders in our building, we can't go on the grade 1 through 6 hour. We have to go with the 7-12 hours. So it was kind of unique last year, if you recall. The only reason we had to do the waiver last year is because we were only under for that 7th and 8th. We met the requirement for our 1 through 6 and for our kindergarten. But because of the type of school we are, we have to meet that higher expectation.
But that was under because we closed.
Yes.
Okay. We're not close, you know what I mean. Okay.
Oh, we did already.
Can I actually request that we come back to this item only because I don't want the bank potentially asking why we only had 4 votes instead of 5 votes on this particular item.
Okay. Can we table something? Are we allowed to do that?
There's no reason why you couldn't shift it to later in the meeting, so we can come back
Sorry,
to that. Yep.
No, that's.
don't want to create any
I
more
would
questions or
rather
hiccups. with
You
the
not
bank.
have issues. No, that's perfect.
Okay, Okay, then the next action item on the agenda is the 2021-2022 Employee Handbook. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the process. I'm not going to go through everything that's in it like we did at the last meeting. We did receive feedback from our employees, and that was anonymous feedback for them to give us some things to think about as it related to the Employee Handbook. The leadership team went through the handbook template and made necessary changes to reflect practice, legal requirements, and recommendations. The board personnel committee went over the employee feedback and the administrative team recommendations. The draft was provided at our July board meeting for information, and then a recap of the changes was sent out for all staff to be able to review, as well as the document itself. The draft then was provided this evening for approval at our August board meeting. The only thing that's still missing is we're still waiting on some of the legal language related to retirement. But remember, that can be taken up as a separate board action because the employee handbook can be by board vote changed at any time. So at this point, and I don't know if there was any additional feedback that board members got, I did not receive any additional formal feedback.
So after they got the draft,
Correct.
there was nothing else. Okay, good.
Yep. So my recommendation would be to approve the 2021-2022 employee handbook as presented.
I motion to approve the 2021-2022 employee handbook as presented.
So moved.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and abstention, and motion carries.
I'm very excited that it will be a much shorter process going forward after this.
Yes,
To get that done.
that's great. Thanks for
Tweaking
taking
it
on that
in the future.
piece. Yeah, that's great.
Speaking of lengthy things, I'm not going to go over these. We went over the policies for first reading at the last board meeting. I'm just going to go through each slide and give you about 20 seconds to look at each one, and then we'll move on. If a question comes up with each of them, please ask questions, and then when we get to the end, I'll make a recommendation.
Connie, will you walk us all out to our car with your umbrella?
Did you see that one about incapacity of the district administrator?
No, I didn't see
Yes,
that
that's a
one.
policy there, so it keeps me from being able to do
I have an
that.
issue with that one then.
Boy, that was handy.
That was a
It
perfect
was.
timed one right there.
Nicely done.
All about timing. So just going through the procedure, remember the recommended changes came from Neola, which is our district policy consultant. It was reviewed in Policy and Community Relations Committee in July of 2021. First reading consideration at the July regular board meeting, July 27th, 2021, and then posted for public viewing and access since our July meeting if somebody did want to go through and read those through. The recommendation then at this time would be to approve policy revisions for second and final reading as presented.
I move that we approve policy revisions for second and final reading as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and motion carries.
So we gotta go back up to.
Back.
All the question. We're going to come back to cover one of these things as far as budget.
Okay.
All right, so now we're jumping back to action item regarding the resolution authorizing temporary borrowing. So Wisconsin State Statute 67.12 allows districts to temporarily borrow money to meet immediate expenses of operating and maintaining public instruction of the school district. So one of the first things I did when I got here, I wanted to make sure we were on an okay cash flow landscape. And so I kind of looked at revenues coming in, major revenues coming in from the state, from property taxes, along with what is our typical payroll expenses in a given month, any other large transfers, things like that. And I could see that we were fine. Then I kind of looked back through my predecessors' records to see if we ever had to borrow on a short-term basis, and it looked like it was kind of a regular thing. But from my perspective, I didn't see anything. I was like, I don't see any borrowing in our future. One of the things that, though, I didn't factor in was the large transfer into Fund 46, because I had never worked in a district with Fund 46. And I also learned that you can't use the money in Fund 46 for cash flow purposes. So it's unlike most other of our cash accounts, you can transfer in between. You can't, that's like one of the downsides of the Fund 46 cash account. And so our cash flow of revenues doesn't always match up with our expenses. So our expenses are pretty consistent because we do payroll. Most teachers opt in for payroll over the summer, and that's our largest expense. As you noted, the non-payroll purchases were down over the summer, which is pretty normal. But in general, our expenses are pretty regular throughout the school year. Our revenue, meanwhile, though, our two largest chunks of revenue, both making up about 46% of our revenue, are state aid and property taxes. And our first major state aid payment doesn't come until December. We do get about 15% in September, but that's not enough to get us all the way through the winter. So we do get a state aid payment of about 25% or 40% in December, and then we do get our first property tax payments in January. And so because there is that kind of gap between when our revenue comes in and expenses come in, some districts have to borrow in order to keep the cash flow positive. And so kind of looking at it now, it does look like November is going to be our lowest point in our cash flow. I'm still kind of optimistic that we won't have to borrow, but just in the event that we do need to borrow in order to make payroll or pay additional invoices, I did reach out to Community State Bank, who we've worked with in the past to short-term borrow. And so this resolution is just to give us the ability to borrow up to $1 million on a short-term basis. Not that we have to do it, and if we don't borrow, we don't have to pay any interest or anything on it. It just gives us that flexibility and that freedom should we need to borrow. In particular, like I said, November and potentially early December are when we would need to borrow if we do need to. And then immediately when we get our state aid payment in December, we can pay back that amount. So we wouldn't be paying interest on a full year. It would just be more like on a month or 5 or 6 week basis.
On the interest rate, the 4.25%, I assume that you checked with other lending institutions, even though we do work with Community State Bank, and is that
correct?
Right now, pretty much in the range.
Yep, that's pretty standard across most short-term lending options. Additionally, like I mentioned, if we don't have to borrow, we won't have to pay the interest. There was a $300 fee though to get all the paperwork set up, which is pretty minor, just to give us that flexibility. I did look, and if we did have to borrow the full $1 million for a full 2 months, so this is this is very conservative. We would end up paying about $7,000 in interest, but in reality, we would only borrow in chunks to hit payroll. And so I would estimate at probably about $2,000 of interest potentially, which is still relatively minor considering the amount we'd be borrowing.
Yeah, and this is something that you pointed out that I mean, I've been on the board for 5 years, almost 6 years, that it's just hard to, and obviously all districts face the issue of getting the money from the state so late into the first half of the school year. But this is something that we're used to, and so thank you for your.
Yeah, it's very common. I would say the only exception of districts who usually don't need to short-term borrow are either ones that have a very large fund balance. We're talking over 25% or more, or if they're a highly state-aided school district. Like I mentioned, they do get that 15% payment in September, and if you do get most of your revenue from state aid, then that is a sizable chunk. Whereas we get about half of our revenue from state aid and half from property taxes. So,
Because I have two quick questions.
yes.
The state aid that comes on the Fund 46 is more than the 2,000 or 3,000 that we would pay in interest, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Significantly more. Yeah.
And then does the transfer have to happen prior to the end of the fiscal year? So like we couldn't wait until December to do that transfer?
So the transfer into Fund 46 has to be booked in the fiscal year at the year end,
Okay.
but they do give you until the July 31st to
would
make the
help us
transfer.
out.
And I waited till July 29th to make the transfer just to kind of see where we ended up, make sure there wasn't any unexpected invoices coming in or things like that.
So if you think about our state aid is what, about 50%? Where are we state aided at?
Yes, it's pretty much 50% state aid,
Close to
50%
50.
property tax.
So if you think about $1 million, for example, that's about looking at about $500,000 in state aid or shared costs compared to the 2,000 or 3,000 that you might be spending on the. So it is a pretty significant chunk. We have been working pretty hard to get our fund balance up, but it's always a little bit of a toss-up in terms of, are you putting a lot of money that's sitting there just for that 1 month, and meanwhile now you shorted
all that, right.
your programming for kids and your ability to do those types of projects. So
Yep, and once we get to December and definitely by January, then our cash flow is positive for all the way until the following fall. And I will update you, the board, as we get into that November timeframe, where we're looking at. And then in December, once we can pay it back, if we need to, I could update you then as well. And I did look back at the last time we short-term borrowed was in April of 2020, or it might have been March. It was right around when the pandemic kind of started, and it was, I believe, for $3 million back then. So we are. 1 million I think is more than we need, but I'd rather be conservative and have the ability to borrow it if we need to.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing temporary borrowing of up to $1 million.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and motion carries.
skip through quickly because we jumped back and forth. So, all right. So on to the fun stuff. We have, moving into information items, we have the school year startup activities. I'd shared earlier that August 16th to 19th was our new teacher orientation. August 19th, we welcomed our new families and gave them a tour of the building. How many families do we have, Ryan, for that?
33, I believe.
3 new families came in. We've been enrolling lots of new students the last couple weeks, so our enrollment is looking much better than it did. We had our staff in-service activities this week, August 24th through 26th. I'll be sending out this evening, parents probably already got it, reminding them of our open house. We have August 25th, our 4K and 5K open house from 5 to 6:30. August 26th, grades 1 through 8 from 4 to 5:30. I sent out kind of a map that spreads out the entry into the building. We really want to have our families join us in the building, but we also want to be safe as well. So I sent out kind of some of the safety protocols and things that are in place to try and keep our families safe coming in the building. So we're excited about that. As you remember, last year we weren't able to do an open house because of the pandemic. So that's hopefully a really positive step forward for us. I'm a little daunted by the weather out there, but we're really excited and hopeful about trying our Salem Community Picnic. The last I looked, we had over 100 families that have RSVP'd that they had hoped to come and join us that evening. If the weather isn't like it is tonight, I've been talking with our team. I'm going to make a decision by noon that day. So in other words, and we'll have to make it based on the forecast, but I also don't want to risk it if we're looking at some weather like this. So again, that will be from 5 to 6:30 p.m. on Thursday following the grades 1 through 8 open house. And we got a lot of fun stuff planned. We got a DJ, we got food trucks, fire truck, tractors, school buses, DARE. Should be pretty exciting. The library, the sharing center, and of course our Falcon mascot will be there for a photo booth for families that would like to come and participate in that. So let's hope the weather holds, because I'm really excited about this and I think our families will really enjoy it. And that's in the building. Some of the summer building projects, just to give you some updates, we have lots of new murals around the building, so some of those really look nice and are gorgeous. As you take a walk around, our resident...
Did the art teachers do this?
No, this is one of our little gems that we have in the building. One of our custodians, Ramza, is amazing at painting, and she does a lot of really cool things in the building.
Talent comes out of strange places sometimes.
Yeah.
You gotta like it.
She is amazing, she really is. We've done a lot of painting of trim, like our doors and our doorways and some of the trim around the building. We've done some painting on the playground equipment and new mulch so that those playgrounds are ready for our kids when they come back. I say ready, there's no question our playground facilities could use some updating. They are not ideal, but we do the best we can with what we have. So they do have a new fresh coat of paint and they're ready for kids to play. They've missed the kids. So we have a new roof over our upper 5th grade and upper intermediate. You can see how important that is on evenings like today. We have new outdoor storage, so that's for that lawnmower that everybody's fighting over, who gets to use the lawnmower. This was actually we bought a couple of kind of shelter type things to try and do some outdoor classrooms during the pandemic. They didn't get used as much as we were kind of hoping they would or thinking they would, but we were able to turn one of them into actually some outdoor storage for some of our equipment in that. We have now replaced the elevator mechanism. Show you the picture on the inside because it hasn't updated the color any. That's still very solid from when it was initially put in. But we do have a brand new mechanism to make it all safe, and it's tested, and we're all good and ready to go when the kids
Like a blank canvas for a mural in there.
Mural could definitely go in there.
Sure. I don't know, that autumn color is pretty nice.
It is lovely.
Yeah. We have a new bottle filling station donated by the American Heart Association, and we have a new dishwasher covered by about 50% from some state grant funds. That dishwasher, that is no classic kitchen dishwasher. That is a high efficiency.
Does it move?
Everything runs
It's
through the
convenient.
middle. So we're excited about that. Because this year we actually think we might be able to use trays instead of all those throwaway. So the need for a dishwasher becomes even more important.
Just the trays.
Yeah, me too. We've done some seal coating and curb and concrete repair. We've done in those old sections of the building, there's only so much that you can do to make them look a little better, but we're trying. This is that kind of 4th and 5th grade area, which are the oldest classrooms we have, but definitely giving them a little bit of a updated look by painting them and trying to keep them in good working order. And so administrator reports. Marquez, I think you're up first.
All right, try to keep it short as always. So at the last meeting, I had mentioned that we had our audit coming up. So that was 2 weeks ago, and the auditors actually were affected by the power outages because their home office was in Waukesha or somewhere to the north of here, and they do everything remotely through a VPN, and that was out. So they actually had to, they showed up one morning, couldn't do anything on their computers, so they actually went home, and it actually went, it was supposed to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. So they were here one more day longer, which didn't really matter, but they were able to complete a majority of the audit. We are still awaiting one potential entry, but it's just between accounts. It's nothing material. One thing that we did find out was due to our increased federal revenue from our ESSER, the federal stimulus money, and then through our summer food service program, our Fund 50 federal reimbursement through that, we exceeded the $750,000 threshold of federal funds. And if you do have more than $750,000 of federal revenue, or technically it's expenses, but the expenses are all reimbursed anyway. So if you do get over that threshold, then you are required to have a federal single audit, which is in addition to your financial audit. It doesn't really affect any reporting to DPI or anything like that. So typically it occurs a little later. I think we're looking at October, but we haven't nailed down a date yet. So they will be doing a little bit more looking into our federal expenses and revenue. So we'll be scheduling that. And then in the coming months, usually I think in November, they had the final financial audited statements. So as soon as those become available, we'll share that with you guys as well. And so that's the audit update. Looking at the budget for this upcoming school year, working to make sure our preliminary budget numbers are as accurate as possible based on all the information that we do have available. As Connie alluded to, our enrollment is looking better than originally projected, so we might have a little more revenue than I was initially anticipating. But the big dates that are coming up that play into the budget are the third Friday pupil count, when that's on September 17th this year. The October 15th state aid certification, and then once we know that amount, then we know the portion that will be coming from property taxes, and then we do have our budget hearing and annual meeting at the end of October. So those are the three big dates that I'm kind of looking at. And then the last piece is a little bit more into the weeds of things, but since I've been involved in school business for the last decade, there are annual reports financial reports that we have to send to the DPI. There's a budget report every year. There's a annual report that you submit after the fiscal year is over. Then a couple years ago, they added a school level reporting. And so those are all like point in time. I download a file out of our financial software and I have to submit that to DPI. But DPI has a new next generation financial reporting system for districts, and the financial data will now flow directly from our financial software Skyward to DPI, much like our student information does currently. So there won't be any more of these submissions at a single point in time. It's kind of in real time.
How much time will that save you?
It'll save it will save many hours, and there's usually a lot of errors that you get at the end of the year, and you can be proactive, but then I always wait till closer to end of June to start looking at those errors and making fixes. But this will provide real-time feedback, and you'll know as soon as you have an error. So to me, you can be a lot more proactive, and I think it will end up saving time. I think we are far ahead of the curve compared to most districts in the state, and so I'm looking forward to seeing how well we are in compliance. I guess we'll see, but I'm pretty confident that this won't be a big deal for us, though you might hear other districts talking about it. I just wanted to give you a heads up in case you hear this, people talking about wise data finance, but it's pretty in the weeds. So,
Community picnic.
yeah.
Oh, we're gonna get so many questions. Yeah.
But that was it. Does anybody have any questions about any of those items?
That's great, thank you.
Any other administrator reports?
I'm up next. Good evening. Good seeing everyone again. It's been a couple months since we last talked.
We have a podium.
Oh, I'll go to the yeah.
The camera can't reach you.
Oh, perfect. So just a couple quick things for me. One of the things that we had the first 2 weeks of August was session 2 of summer school. It was our step up program. If you recall, our first 3 weeks in June, we had our enrichment program. And that was really Connie spearheading that. The great idea with that was obviously in the past when we just had that 5 weeks, a lot of those kids who might have just stayed in that step up program didn't have the opportunity to be a part of that enrichment program. So this kind of allowed them to participate in both. So we ended up actually having almost 85 students. I believe the final count was 83 students in that summer school session 2. Another thing we also did with that, again spearheaded by Connie, was trying to get busing for those students so that wouldn't be a barrier. So really we want to thank you for doing that. We did actually have 28 students use busing. So over a third of those students did that. So it was really exciting to see how many students that came and participated. Families were very pleased with how it was running, and a lot of them liked how it was in August because it kind of got their kids in the mode of school started in a couple of weeks. So that was kind of the session 2, and like I said, that went really well. I'm sure we'll continue kind of running that similar next year, hopefully. So as far as middle school goes, a couple of quick updates. One thing in 6th grade this year that's going to be new is we're going to incorporate the ARC reading program. The 6th grade reading teachers are really excited about that.
They are so excited.
They really are the ones that kind of spearheaded that. They were kind of all seeing all the cool things that 5th grade teachers and the 4th grade teachers were doing. They're like, well, what about us? So we kind of worked through that. So what we're going to kind of do is 6th grade implemented it this year, and basically that 6th grade class, that curriculum will just follow them the rest of the year at Salem. So next year will be implemented in 7th grade, following year will be implemented in 8th grade. So it'll be 2 more years, but they're very thrilled to be a part of that. As far as the cost, it was significantly cheaper than past years because obviously you're only getting curriculum for 2 teachers as opposed to 5 teachers. They had training in that in July. They're really thrilled with their trainer, and they're looking forward to kind of continuing that relationship. With ARC, the trainers, the one nice thing this year, hopefully the trainers are going to be able to be in the building and kind of do more coaching and things like that. That's the plan. Knock on wood that they can hopefully come in and do that, but they're excited for that as well. And finally, in middle school, and kind of this was a whole team administration effort. Patty and I kind of met with all the special area teachers a little bit and kind of figured out like what their asks were for this upcoming year. Band and choir wanted more time with their middle school students. In the past, they were only getting it 2 times a week. Art wanted to kind of look at it in a way where the art teachers could basically kind of co-teach or basically both do 1st grade as opposed to Brittany Stalker maybe doing K through 4th grade and then Sarah Grabaric doing 6 through 8. So after a lot of help from Connie, who's our kind of specialist with scheduling a little bit, I talked to her and Patty, we kind of worked out a way in middle school at least. So kids that for middle school and band, they can have band up to 4 times a week. They can have choir up to 4 times a week. And then they can have art up to 2 times a week. So basically what we ended up creating was a fine arts block. And basically students had the option of taking, again, choir 4 times a week, band 4 times a week. If they wanted to take choir and band, they could do 2 and 2. If they wanted to do art, choir, and band, they could do 2, 2, and 1. And so that's kind of the updates as far as the scheduling looked like too. And we're, for the most part too, as far as specials, everyone in the building, 6th grade, it's a little bit different because they've got different requirements as far as they need to take an art class and a music class. For the most part, everyone has SPI at 3 days a week too. So, but that's really it for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Brian.
Good.
You did that just for you, Jack.
I'm all smiley over here.
All right, I'm going to be very brief because we've already addressed a lot of what I was going to share about our new families coming and new staff coming in. But I did want to update you on our 4K program. We just are moving now to our full day option. and we've had a great response. We are up to 90 students being enrolled in 4K, up from 67 last year. 60 students in full day and 30 in half day. So we are right where we were hoping to be. That was the goal number, and we're there. So I'm very excited about that. And then finally, I just want to recognize one of our employees who's really, she's been through it this summer. Dawn Ravel is our school secretary. And typically, there's at least one other person in the office with her through the summer, sometimes two. And she's been on her own. She has gone through everything that we have to go through in the summer, 2 sessions of summer school, enrolling all those students, plus all of our new families coming in, and the typical job that she would split with another person. She's doing it all on her own. Plus, she's the first person that our families meet. She's the person that they talk to on the phone. She's always got a smile on her face, and I just wanted to make sure she was recognized for that, because it's been a long summer and she is not done yet. So that's it.
Thank you, Patty.
Sure, thank you so much.
Hello.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, it's great to be back. A couple months ago, I shared with you the Joint Federal Notification Report. We talked about how some of this data kind of gets brought in from other reports. So I wanted to share a couple of those updates. So we just went through our Indicator 8, which is our family engagement review. We sent out 160 surveys to our families, and 40 of the families replied back, giving us some sort of feedback. In order for us to meet that indicator, we have to have 16 responses, and we got the 40, so we're well above that. But I just wanted, the parents did have an opportunity to make a couple comments, and I wanted to highlight some of those comments as well. One parent wrote in, "All the staff and teams that have helped with their IEPs have been amazing. I'm very grateful." Another one said, "I cannot speak highly enough of how wonderful and thorough Salem Grade School is with IEP students." And another parent wrote, "We appreciate all the help we receive on our IEPs. They go above and beyond. Ms. Kaiser has been a blessing, especially during these difficult times." So I wanted to highlight Ms. Kaiser because she was highlighted by a particular individual family. And some of the feedback is also different improvements for us as well. One of the parents pointed out that there's a lot of data on those reports, and I'd like to know a little bit more about what some of that means. And so that's great feedback for us because, yeah, we can start speaking some teacherese a little bit. And so it's a great reminder for us to slow down and make sure that we're really explaining what all those percentages mean to our families as well. So Indicator 8, check, it's in the books, and so we'll get our 2 points for that.
Have you done that survey before, or is this the first time it's been done?
My first time with Salem.
Okay.
Has
Was
it been done
done?
before? I honestly cannot give you that information.
Probably, okay. That's fine.
And now the next report that we're going through is called the Procedural Compliance Self-Assessment. For this, what we need to do is DPI gives us a list of about 40 different areas to check on our IEPs. We put it together a team of 10 teachers. Those teachers go through some training with DPI and become certified reviewers. We then take the IEPs, we match it up to the different areas that DPI is asking us to review on our IEPs, and we check, is it there or is it not there? And we turn that data in. Schools go through this process every 5 years. We're up for that this year ourselves. I expect we're going to do a phenomenal job. Our team has worked very hard to really make sure that our IEPs are to the letter with DPI. I do expect to find some areas of improvement. I don't know a single school who has gone through this review process and not found something to work on. So I embrace that and look forward to finding any areas of improvement for our team. But I think it's going to be really small. So that'll be exciting. That'll be wrapped up sometime around November. We turn that information in, and then they tell us what corrective actions we have to take, if any. And finally, just an update on our inclusive community work. We had some of our new school leadership team go through the ICS 1 training. The rest of us went through the ICS 2 training this summer. That completes all of our training with the institute itself. And so now we're going to continue to do that good work here at the school level. So the 2 goals that we're really focusing on this year is that our teachers are going to be developing and working in those professional learning communities, the PLCs, to really identify the standards in which everybody in that grade level is teaching, and then what assessments they're going to use to monitor those. And then lastly, we're looking to really create that multi-level system of support to make sure that we're really meeting the needs of all students. And so you're going to hear a lot about those two goals as we continue to move forward this year.
Judy, one of the things that everyone around the state is talking about, when I was at the CISA Board of Control meeting last week, it was one of the topics, and getting all the information from DPI as well that I read, look at, the whole issue of statewide testing, academic testing, and who knows what the impact of the last year and 5 months, 6 months will mean to our score, to our students' scores. What kinds of feedback are you getting so far as far as the upcoming testing and just reactions from staff?
Yeah. So we know from our own internal testing that there's larger gaps this year because our students have missed some instruction. You can't take off 3 months of school and not have some sort of gap. So we know that, and that's why building that multi-level system of support and really helping build the capacity of teachers and that teacher efficacy to help the teachers meet the needs of all of the individual students in the classroom versus kind of creating more programming for them. So yes, there are definitely some learning lags, but we're going to take care of them.
Good. Okay, very good. Thanks so much.
That was great.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we have, at this point, we didn't have any committee meetings. I will just remind, it's not a committee meeting, but we did talk about pulling together a kind of a work session to look at our facilities and take that next step.
September, or do you need a break?
I'd like to do it in September, but I'd like to get school started. And so my thought would be I'll send out
Something out, we can check the Google Meets or the Doodle, whatever, Doodle, I'm sorry.
So I'm thinking somewhere around, I met again with the architect to kind of try and narrow down a little bit what some of the costs might be of some different options and things like that. And so I think we'll be in a good place to move forward right around mid-September. So I'll send something out with some dates around that time.
Okay, all right. Good, thank you.
All right. And so then again, there were no minutes from any committee meetings. Our next board meeting, our next regular school board meeting will be 7 p.m. Tuesday, September 28th, 2021.
Great. I move to adjourn the meeting at 8:02.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks.